Hey, so early on in this discussion, I did not realize that my mic was not getting picked up by my recording software. So I fixed that pretty quickly, but we're gonna run through the introduction again, just so there's some information that y'all pick up before the discussion begins. So this is the first discussion panel, hosted virtually by me, Sky Burleson, and my buddy, Nate Stewart. We're a couple of youth organizers in this area, and we thought it'd be good to get in touch with members of the community and people running for local office. So, today we've got someone running for Morristown City Council, running in the Ward 1 seat to replace incumbent Bob Garrett on Election Day, which is May the 4th. Early voting begins April 14th. The last day to request an absentee ballot is April 27th. And early voting ends April 29th. Unfortunately, if you live in the county area, you can't vote, but as long as you're in the city, then you're good. This video will also be cut up and uploaded in multiple segments so you can watch them individually, and there will be sources in the description for certain questions. There will also be a City Council candidate forum next Tuesday, April 13th at 7 o'clock at the Walter State Lyceum. You'll be able to come in and have a discussion with your local representatives here in Morristown and compare how they stand on the issues facing our town. So, without further ado, I'm gonna let Rob Burke introduce himself, and you'll get to see how he stands on the issues. Bam.
Sure. Thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting me. I think it's really great of what you guys are doing. Just trying to get the word out and like you said, just get more involvement. That is a big part of my platform, is getting more people involved. So a little bit about me. I'll start. My name's Rob Burke. As Sky already said, I am running for Morristown City Council, Ward 1. One of the big things that I first thought about running, and this has been a few years thinking, as the wheels are turning, about how I can further do things to help my community and be better at different things and make my community better because of it. And I just saw the lack of participation, especially in voting and going to city council meetings and things like that. So that was one of the big things when I first went door to door, to be on the ballot, to be vote, so your name can be on the ballot, you have to have a petition that you get from the election commission. You have to have 25 signatures. The 25 signatures must be all registered voters. So I was just going literally door to door, getting everybody, and I got a stack full of cards, voter registration cards, and I would bang on the door, tell them what I'm doing, tell them what I'm about, and I would say, "Are you a registered voter?" And if they say yes, I say, "I love your support. If you sign my petition, that'd be great." If they say no, I said, "Well, here's a registration card. I'm gonna need you to fill this out for me. You can put it in the mailbox, or you can it's postage paid already. Just I believe, I don't know. Maybe you need a stamp actually. I think you need a stamp. I have to go look at one. But you throw it in the mailbox, whatever. You can just handle it, deliver it at the commission office, or just let me know. I'll come back and I'll swing by and I'll drop it off, because one of the things that I really wanted to bring is exactly what you guys are doing. So I love this, is getting more people involved, especially the younger generation, because you guys have a voice, and I want your voice to be heard. Actually, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I ain't gonna say much about it yet because it's in the works. I'm working on a youth kind of council project to show that people just like you guys that want to do something in the city, want to do something in the county, that's got a voice, that you can have a way to take that voice and push it forward. It's going to be more directed towards a little bit of the younger kids, because I know the high schools both have a somewhat of a program, but we'll be in chat. We'll be in touch. We'll chat about that, because that's something you guys may be able to help me out with. So some of the platform I stand for are that I just want some accountability and openness in the government, in all levels of government. But I mean, we're talking about city council here, so we'll stick it with city council. Right. I think that a lot of people don't trust government. A lot of people feel like, man, they do some shady stuff behind doors, and they, have meetings without us, or they'll schedule a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, knowing that I'm at school or I'm at work and I can't come to that. And then you find out in the newspaper a few days later, hey, this is what happened. That ain't right. So that's one of the things. And look, I understand sometimes meetings have to happen at crazy times. If you got such and such business owner here and such provider coming, and everyone says, hey, 8 o'clock in the morning works for me. I get that, but I'm about, let's put it out ahead of time that says, not just in the newspaper, a little tiny blurb that says, oh, there'll be a meeting at the public works place 8 o'clock on Friday. Like, I want to talk about, here's what we're going to talk about. Here's what you can expect this meeting to be about. And if you can't attend, like, let me know what you think about these topics, what you think about these agenda items, because you have a voice. The only reason we have a city council is these people were elected to be your representative. They were elected to share your voice. And if they're not reaching out to you and telling you, hey, man, we got this going on, I want to know what you think about this, then they're not representing you. Or the other things I've heard, that people will call, and I mean, I'm not going to talk about the entire council as a whole because I know it doesn't fit. Some people are very good at responding and talking and having that communication. But I've heard from several people, Mr. Garrett will not return phone calls or emails. How do you expect to represent a community that you don't talk to? How do you expect to represent people that you don't know? That's why one of my biggest things that I've been doing is trying to go door to door and meeting as many people as I can. I'm only one person, city's 30,000 people. Yeah, I ain't gonna get it all, but I'm trying to see as many people as I can because I am really I'm sold on, I can't represent the city if I don't know the city. I can't represent the people if I don't know the people. So that's the thing I'm really trying to do. Another thought that I'm really focused on is we have a lot of great industry here, a lot of variety of industry. And I mean, we're a hub, a significant hub throughout a huge part of the state. So I think those are great things, but I don't want to let the foot off the gas there. I don't want to be complacent and say, well, we got a really good thing going. Let's kick the shoes off, throw our feet on the table and just chill and coast. I say, no, we have to predict what's going to happen in the future. And Elon Musk wants to send rockets across, into space and hit Mars and whatever. Or he's talking about, well, you can fly on these rockets to London, from New York to London in 28 minutes or something. Look, I don't know if Elon Musk is going to do it or not. He seems like a pretty good go-getter. Seems like if he got his mindset on something, he's going to do it. But regardless of that, and regardless of what he does, I just want to make sure that we are having discussions at the city level, and not just with us, but with other agencies that are involved with, different people that have that part of that discussion, that the city is open to bringing in people with that type of technology so that we can keep that industry rolling. Like we do a lot of things, for example, like building car parts and stuff. Well, that's great. We need cars. That we all use those for the most part, most days of our lives. But if we turn into the Jetsons in 100 years and we got flying cars and they use different kind of parts, like if we don't keep up with those times, then we're going to fall behind. And then other places are going to get this factory that's building this new part, and we're going to be left in the dust. And then everybody's going to move out of town to go follow the jobs, and we'll be a ghost town. So that's one of my thoughts is we got to focus on not just what great industry we have today. I agree. We do have a good variety, and a lot of people come even outside of the county, that live outside the county, come into the county to work because we have that type of industry. But we got to keep focusing on that. Another big thing that I talk about a lot that I'm really passionate about is all these tax increases. So we've had 3 different tax increases over the course of a few years. Property taxes, your sewer rates, your garbage fees. Look, they're going to call them fees and rates, and it's not a tax. It is a tax. You got to pay it. If you have to pay it, it's a tax. If they say we're going to raise your garbage fee up $5, but it's not a tax, if you live in the city, you have to pay this. It's a tax. So, we're getting to a point that is costing people more and more money to live in the city. And if we keep doing it, you're going to push people out where they don't want, if they recognize that they can live in the same kind of house across town in the county, or I don't know, in Jeff City or Newport or something for cheaper than they can do it here, listen, money talks. People are going to walk away and they're going to go live down there. It's just part of it, you know? So I think we've got to focus on that and stop every time we want to do something in the city. And not saying that they have bad ideas. I mean, like the community center. I mean, it could be a good idea, but you got to be taxed for it, you know, or, you know, these different things that we're trying to get done. Well, we're gonna do it, but we're gonna tax. Okay, if you think you need to do it and it's a requirement, or you think it's that important for it to happen in the city, we first need to look at the money that we're already bringing in and figure out where we can trim some fat, where we can cut some excess that we don't need, and put it towards the things that we want to do, instead of saying we're going to keep things the same and add on to it. And sorry if you want it, or sorry if you're going to use it. You know how many people I've talked to that were like, I'm never in my life going to go to this community center. I don't care, but I'm being taxed for it. And I've got a lot of people I've talked to that said, look, the community center looks like it's going to be a cool thing. I understand that too. But raising taxes and requiring people to pay for what people want just because some group wants it, but not the entire group, like, we're going to have to figure out this taxes and make it where people aren't paying so much to live here and actually want to live here like that. So those are a few things. I got several other things we could probably talk about for days. I'm sure, as you said about the forum, I'm sure, you know, some of that will come out, you know, as we get some of those questions, and I'm sure you'll hear some of those responses like that. But really, it's just getting people involved, and those people at the seat need to have accountability for what's happening. That's why I've agreed to, every time somebody asks me to come meet up with them and chat with them or do something like this, 100%. I will do this every single time, just because I want people to know they have access to me. And I don't care. I could win by 400 votes in a month, and then 3 months later, you call me or message me and be like, yo, dude, can we do this again? And I'm going to tell you yes. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to do everything I can so I can go ahead and get voted in and get elected. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, throw the brakes up and I'm going to switch up who I am. Like, I am always going to be accountable to you, the people. And if you ask me to do something, as long as I can do it and I'm not breaking any laws to do it, I'm going to do it if I can. So this to me is easy. It doesn't take but just a little bit of time, but it means a lot. It means a lot for me that you guys would ask me to do it. And I'm sure it means a lot to you that I would agree to do it. And that's how you build that community, build those relationships. And that's what I'm going to be a part of. You know, relationships are easy. You just got to work them. That's the hard part, is working it. But once you work it, it's easy. So, and yeah. I think that's something that some people need to learn. That's why we need some replacements, because they're not about relationships. They think that, well, I've been in this office for so long, and they want to kind of coast in on their past accomplishments. Well, I've been with the city for 30 years working. Listen, that's fine. Thank you for your service. Here's your certificate. It's time to move on. You don't get to coast in by former achievements or things of that nature. And, you know, sometimes I really feel like at some level there's just this good old boy system, and I'm sure lots of places feel like that, but I'm just not about that, and I don't think the people are about that. You know, when if you guys saw, just a few weeks ago, that whole investigation came out about the solid waste director stealing money for his stuff for the truck and whatever. Then they had to vote whether or not they were going to keep him on or not. Bob Garrett voted to keep him on, even though he stole, no other way to say it, he stole, what was it, like almost $1,700 or something worth of, you know, like, and he's cool with that. I guess because they're buddies, and I guess because it's the good old boy system. And I'm just not about that. Look, me and you can be best friends. If you do something wrong, you're going to have accountability. And I will happy to give that. And, you know, I expect the same from you. If I do something wrong, I expect you to call me out on it, and there's going to be consequences. I mean, it just shows what's going on. You know what I mean? A little home cooking. And I'm just not about it. You know, I'm just about doing it right, and doing it right for the people and for the right reasons. And that's why I'm here. So
I like that. Yes, sir. I I think that's very honorable from any politician, just being accountable and knowing that, you know, you're going to be there to have conversations and build relationships with your constituency, who you work for. I think that's phenomenal. Um, and yeah, I feel like a lot of these city council members have been pretty cozy around here. So even throwing a
Absolutely right.
even throwing a wrench in their direction allows them to listen to their folks, you know? Um, and yeah, I mean, whenever COVID started, I tuned into some of the city council live streams, and that was pretty informative. I mean, and then they sort of started fading away as, you know, the pandemic started easing up. So, yeah, I mean, I think we should be filming our city council meetings, putting them up just publicly so people can see. Um, just having more accountability and transparency around here would be really great for one.
Absolutely. And you may already know this, but there's a person that comes to every single city council meeting, and she requests videotaping of these city council meetings every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And you see where we are. So
Yeah.
it just feels like they don't want that accountability. I don't understand the reason why they don't want it. Maybe there's other, and listen, there's a lot of stuff that happens that I don't understand. I'm not in that position. I'm not a politician. Like, I'm not those things.
Yeah.
Some of these people have been in this seat for 28 years. So they obviously know what goes on behind the scenes. But I just feel like if it doesn't cost the city anything and the people are asking for it and it's an opportunity for accountability, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
It's easy. It's easy and it's simple, and the people are asking for it. Just do it.
Yeah. If I can ask you something personal, where are you from?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to grab my charger, but keep going.
All right.
That's what the camera said. The camera turned off because it was like, oh, you got 10%. Right.
Yeah.
So thanks for the warning. So anyway, you keep going, but that's what's happening.
So, yeah, where are you from? Where'd you go to college? How are you connected to Morristown, Tennessee? Just something came to mind.
Sure, cool. So originally from New Jersey, lived there for 14 years. Following parents' divorce and all that, moved to Georgia. Was there for a while, joined the military, was still in Georgia for a minute, was in Germany for a couple years,
Wow.
then came here. What brought me here was, at the time, my two oldest daughters lived in Georgia still with their mom when I was coming back from Germany. So when I was ready to get out of the military, settle down, all that, I knew that I wanted to be close enough that I can just run and get them for the weekend and see them as much as I could. So I applied for some jobs and landed a job here in Tennessee with Department of Children's Services. So I worked there for 7 years. Definitely was part of the me getting involved in the community for sure.
Oh, yeah.
You know, work a job like that, especially my one position, the last position I had there as the resource linkage coordinator. My job was to go to community meetings all over 7 counties, Hamblen being one of them, and attend these meetings as frequently as I could and learn the resources in the area. And share those with my staff and with families and things of that nature. So, you know, getting to know a lot of what was going on through that. That's kind of what landed me here, you know, and a little background there. As far as school stuff, I've got I started since I was in Georgia at that time when I graduated high school and all that. I went to Georgia State for a couple of years. Didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to take general classes. I'm not really sure. After 2 years of doing that, the counselor called me in and was like, hey man, you gotta pick a major. Like, what are you going to do? And there's like, we don't know which direction to point you at until, so I was like, I don't know, man, it's such a hard decision what I'm going to do the rest of my life. So I took a little time off. Then I decided, I then at that point joined the military. Then I was like, all right, well, maybe the military is the thing for me, right? So I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And then as I was kind of ending that military time, I was, you know, obviously thinking of, all right, I'm going to get out and do different things. Now it's I was really focused on. I just felt like I was called to to help people and to be a part of people's lives and what people are doing. So I've got a master's degree in nonprofit management and leadership. And kind of the thought process behind that is, I just want to help people and help services and do whatever I can to help people best I can. And that's kind of it. I don't know if I answered all those questions. Sorry.
Yeah, that was pretty
Feel like I
great.
was all over the place for a minute.
Yeah, learned a lot about you. Yeah, I mean that's great that you've gotten familiar with this place around here, and been organized in the community. So since our scheduling was a little bit iffy to begin with, we're gonna try and rapid fire through some of these questions. Nate,
Sure.
if you wanna hit him with the first one.
Okay. Can y'all hear me all right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I hear you.
pretty good.
Okay. I actually have to dip out here in a second, so I'm gonna ask this question and then I'm gonna leave and then I'll be back later.
Okay.
Okay. So Rob, if you were to win your city council seat in May, you would be the first millennial representing Morristown, both at the state and county level. Tell us what that means to you and what you think younger generations have the potential to get done in our city.
Man, that's great. I didn't even think of it like that. Look at you guys. This is awesome. I didn't even it didn't even hit me, dude. You just hit me with like all kinds of cool stuff. That's great.
That's
it means a lot,
that's Sky's question. I'm gonna give all credit to her.
No, it means
I'll be right
it means
back.
a lot. And
Okay.
it really just shows that regardless of that age is just a number, and that's it. That doesn't mean that just because you're so old that you have this age and you're 15, 16, 25, 35. Oh, I can't do anything because I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
Not there yet is a mentality that you put on yourself. If someone says you're not there yet, that means that it depends. If you agree with that, then you put that on yourself. If you don't agree with that, you go prove that you are there yet, because it's not an age. So I think what it does, it means a lot to show that anybody can do anything. Like this little boy coming from where I've been in my life and some of the things I have seen and done, and to be able to overcome those and now be in that opportunity, in that position, it really just shows that anybody can achieve anything, and that your dreams are only limited by what you allow them to be limited by. And if you have a desire to do things, do great things, be a part of a city like this or a county like what we're talking about, or even greater, being the governor one day, being the president, being a CEO. It doesn't have to just be politically, being a CEO of a company, going to be a doctor, an attorney, whatever you want to be, you can do it. Really, what the fact is what type of support you have and what kind of motivation you have and the energy. If you're one of those people that's like, I'm not going to stop until I get it, I'm not a quitter, I'm just going to keep pushing forward, and you got good support behind you, you're going to do it 100%. So I hope that this opportunity will encourage the younger group. And that's also, like I'm saying, about that kind of youth council idea that I threw out there. I hope that that's a part of it too, that encourages young people to recognize that they have a voice too, and their voice is valid and valuable, and we're interested in it. At least I am. I guess I can't speak about everybody, but I'm interested. I want to know. It's not any good for me to say, hey, look, I'm interested in what's going on in the city because this is what I want to see change. Yeah, those might be somewhat good ideas. However, if I didn't run this by all these other 30,000 people in the city, I'm not saying I'm going door to door, meet everybody and say, what do you think about this? It's a little difficult. However, if I don't have some input and recognize, that did I talk to this demographic or this demographic? How does this decision affect this group of people or that group of people? And what is best for all people in the grand scheme of things? Like, if I didn't have that mindset, then I'm just selfish and doing what I think is best. And that's ridiculous. And really, that's what has been happening in some level. So no, thank you. We'll move on from that. So I think it's a great opportunity. So if that's something that I just encourage whatever dreams you have, work hard towards them. Don't give up. Don't stop. have that support group if you do, or, you know, find that support group to help you through it, to push you through on those days you don't want to go, and you'll do anything.
Well said. I like that. Yeah, and even with because we're connected to a lot of progressives, a lot of young progressives, and they see opportunity in bigger cities like over there in Nashville and Memphis and stuff, and even having some form of organization around here for all types of different kinds of ideas allows for more nuanced conversations, you know, and it allows us to have better conversations about what to do with our area. So, yeah, I just encourage a lot of lefties and progressives to, you know, get out and talk to people that you disagree with, you know? So yeah, next question, we have infrastructure. So Morristown is the 5th largest metropolitan area in East Tennessee and the 9th largest in the state. We've maintained a steady growth in population over the past several decades, and our city needs the structure to grow a thriving community. What's your plan to improve the accessibility and infrastructure of the city?
Great question. Thank you. So I think you're absolutely right that we have grown, we continue to grow, and that growth chart is not done yet. We have seen even in recent city council meetings, you will see rezoning and planning or bringing in city property in an effort to build more housing on it. So I think that is the plan, is that people are coming and building for that opportunity, and that is going to have a strain on the infrastructure if we don't actively maintain that. So, of course, things like roads, that's a significant issue, and maintaining those. Obviously, all types of things, water, sewer, you know, all those things that we need, bridges, everything of that nature. I want to be careful that we are maintaining our current infrastructure before we run over and before we run out and try to expand infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that is a great way for a city to kind of in some way collapse upon itself, not literally, but kind of collapse on itself when it tries to expand so quickly and tries to move in one direction and then this direction and just spread in that way and not take care of what we have already. So I would say, I know there's actually currently a lot of discussion about what infrastructure is, and depending who you ask, yep. Infrastructure is either this big or it's just these things. So I'm not necessarily here to define that for some people or not. But so generally speaking, I will say that we are going to have to make sure that we don't stretch ourselves too thin and so thin in trying to meet what we believe our infrastructure needs and say, well, we're going to need new roads here and new roads there and new roads here, that we completely allow the roads that are being used every single day to be dilapidated. So I think that we're going to have to find that balance. And when the new infrastructure needs to happen, then we're going to have to slowly bring that on as to not overwhelm the entire system and not to neglect parts of the infrastructure that we have already committed to maintaining.
Exactly. Yeah, I think a lot of the downtown area can just look so beautiful. Just looking at old pictures, like a lot of these buildings can be repaired, and like all these roads can be completely redone, and we can have like accessible infrastructure around here. And so I think that's really important before we start expanding outward. We should really be focusing on what we have right now. And I think that's a good way to approach it. So since Nate still hasn't returned, I'll skip to some of my other questions that I have written for myself. So Morristown is, you were sort of touching on this earlier, but you can expand on it. Morristown is an industrial and commercial hub for the East Tennessee region, and our daytime population is over 100,000 every day. What's your plan for creating new jobs, sustaining our local businesses, and protecting union jobs in the Morristown area?
Again, great question. You guys are really on it and have really considered these, so I applaud you. Listen, very soon I want you to run for city council too, or whatever those dreams are. I want you to do it. So absolutely, a hub, and we want to maintain that. I do recognize that daytime population is kind of what we alluded to before, people of other counties coming in and getting to work every day and maintaining those jobs and bringing those jobs here. And the more jobs we bring here, the more people that want to be here, whether that's a daytime and they live across the county line, or bring them into the city to live here. That's great. So to maintain the one thing that I'm thinking, and I think a lot of it's already underway, is with what things like TCAT's doing and building their new center, is finding kind of what we've already talked about with you guys too, is finding the people here that have a dream and have a passion, and encouraging them and helping them along the way to see that dream into fruition. So a part of it is not just bringing in new young professionals. That's a part of it. Sure, we can talk about that in a second. But the first part is taking care of our own. And, if we've got a bunch of high school kids that are like, man, I want to go into this business, I want to do that, how do we support them? I think TCAT's going to do a lot of that. And we're going to find a lot of our next generation young professionals, whatever that looks like, whatever field, whether blue collar, white collar, whatever it is. We're going to find a lot of them right here. We're growing them right now. And then bringing more in. We've got to maintain the taxes are going to keep people out. If taxes are too high for a business, look, they'll take their jobs elsewhere. They're not going to come here. Depending on the industry, of course. For example, if you use 1 million gallons of water every single day, or I don't know, millions, probably, it sounds like a lot, but maybe it's not, depending on what you do. Maybe use 1 billion gallons of water every single day. If I had a company that used 1 billion gallons of water every single day, chances of me wanting to move that company into Morristown is probably zero, because of such a high sewer rates. I know that I would have to charge so much more for my product in order to even break even. And then if I'm in the business of making whatever product, I'm probably looking for some profit. That's probably the reason I have this business. And it's going to be incredibly difficult to take care of my staff, to pay my staff a good working wage, to be able to sell the product at a good price that people want to buy it, and to pay not only just all these business fees, but these super high sewer rates on top of it, and then be able to bring home a check for myself and my family. It's going to be very difficult. If I'm looking at bringing that kind of business to town, I wouldn't bring it to town. I'd go somewhere else. So we're going to have to do something about those types of sewer rates. And I understand why they are where they are, because other people allowed some errors to happen, and we're trying to make up the difference. But it's an unfortunate opportunity where we did nothing wrong. Somebody else misallocated some funding from one fund to another to just go joy spend and do what he wanted to do. And now we're having to make up the difference of where that money came from that was already supposed to be earmarked for sewer. So at any rate, if we continue on the path of raising taxes, continue on the path of raising the price of the sewer rates, it's going to be difficult to maintain. We've already lost some businesses for things like that, and it's not far-fetched for us to continue to lose it if we continue to head down that path. So the way that we bring them in is make sure that taxes are as low as they can be, make sure that it is an inviting place and remains. I'm not saying it's not completely, but the things that are going well, that we keep that in place, and it remains an inviting place for these businesses to want to come, to have not just a thriving um, area and taxes and all that type of situation, but have all these people that want to work, and have, like you even mentioned, downtown and things like that, to have a place that people say, man, I would love to call this my business home. So I think that that's inviting as well. So
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a pretty good plan. I would say. There's as we're progressives and we try and like fight for like higher taxes on the 1%. It's easy to do that whenever we're talking about national politics, but for local politics, it's more nuanced than that. And so the way for us to be able to budget the city well, I think we should be trying to allocate all of that leverage onto, not the lowest levels of society. People shouldn't be having to pay like massive amounts of taxes if they're working class people. I think that that leverage should be put on some of the people who can afford to pay their workers much higher than the minimum wage around here. So yeah, just finding that out and figuring out that fine line,
right.
I think
and
would
it
be
is,
great.
you're right. It is a fine line, and the taxes, are have to happen for certain things to happen.
Yeah.
So, I get that, but, there's already so many struggling families, doing the best they can, working as much as they can. So many people that have gotten hit financially due to COVID, that they can't afford another hit, they can't afford another increase. And, I get, some of these larger corporations might be able to handle a little bit, kind of what you were saying, but there's a lot of small business owners that, if there's one more tax increase, are they going to be able to maintain? That's a hard question. And these small business owners, like, that's their life. Like, they have everything that they ever have, their heart and soul and everything poured in this one business, and if one more thing causes them that they can no longer stay above water, and they got to close doors, they lose everything. So we're not just talking about, well, such and such business is no longer here, guess we'll have to shop here. Yeah, for at some level, sure, but for them, it's everything. If the small business loses, that's their whole income, maybe, for their family. That's everything to them. So, I think you're right. You got to leverage that in an appropriate way. But in order to keep people here and want to be here, and bring business to want to be here, you've got to make it so that the businesses actually can thrive here.
Exactly. I feel like you can thread that fine line pretty well. Yeah, we went ahead and skipped to the jobs question. So if you want to go back over to yours, number 3.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
Yeah, sorry about that. Here we go. Okay. Housing has a booming supply to meet demand around here, but we still seem to have a considerate homeless population. Do you have a plan to provide well-conditioned, acceptable, and affordable housing to all people in Morristown?
So housing is certainly a significant issue around here. However, on top of that, in 2019, $16.4 million was spent to build new housing. Last year, $34 million, I believe it was, $34 million spent on new housing. This year, we're working on so many new developments. So much housing is going up. However, the affordable part is what we're missing. We're having new housing everywhere. I mean, they built a new complex right down the road from my house here. But the problem is, how affordable is it? And how many people, and you brought up the homeless population, how many of them are going to be able to, yeah, you might be building several new places right down the road from me. That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. But I can't afford it. So I know some of the plan currently is some of the projects going up are of different levels. Some are a little bit more affordable, some's like the middle range, and some are more higher class. So I know that is something that they have kind of trying to consider and making that a thing. But I think that there's also that disconnect between uh, the homeless population and a lot of, let's just generally say, a lot of other people in town. There's a lot of people that are pouring into the homeless population. A lot of churches, a lot of ministries, a lot of just people that want to love on them, want to, help them the best that they can. But there's a lot of people that look down on them and don't give them that voice and that credit that they deserve. And it's just not right. So I think in order to kind of facilitate some of that. And I think it's going to be very difficult, especially now post pandemic, or I don't know if that's the thing. Post, we're still in it, I guess, but you know what I mean. Like housing supplies have like skyrocketed, so building new houses costs much more now than it did even a year ago or 2 years ago. I really feel like we're seeing something. Uh, Things are like big picture, nationally speaking, like with different programs and different things. You can see that something is about to tip some scales one way or another. I'm not sure which one is, but we can just feel it. I don't know if you guys can, but I feel it in the air. There's a tip that's about to happen that's going to change everything. What that tip is, I don't know. Who benefits from that tip? Who knows? But I am hoping that it brings down a lot of these prices and draws that lower, so that it'll be more affordable to do so. And I think, you know, I think a big part of since you brought up like specifically the homeless population, and I think this can go with a lot of people that really are reliant and really need lower payments on housing, is that they need just support in general. Like if we're like, hey, Bill, I know you need the cheaper housing. Here's a place for 400. I got you. Come on. Well, that would be great, except for Bill still doesn't have a job, so he can't afford 400. Okay, I'm going to take you down to local whatever place and help you out fill this application. Great. All right, now Bill has a job. Well, Bill doesn't have clothing that's appropriate for this job, or Bill doesn't have transportation to get him back and forth to this job. So obviously the homeless population is a just major factor in the city, as there's so many people that are outside of having their own home right now. And I think it's bigger than that, and how we handle that and figure that out is we just got to come together as a city, whatever that looks like, and support these people. And I know, like I said, there's a lot of ministries. I'm not saying it's not happening at all. It is. There's a lot of people that's pouring into it. But at the city level, I know that they give funding each year in the budget to various organizations and ministries and things like that to assist with that. So that's good, that they're trying to kind of uphold that a bit. But sometimes sometimes they just need a smile. Sometimes they just need to say, "Look, man, I got you. Like I'm behind you. I support you." Like sometimes they need for understanding, and not just, well, you're this guy, so oh well. Like you just need that little bit of understanding that they're going through this, and most of them, I would dare say, they didn't choose this. It just circumstances happen. And look, there's been times in my life that I've had to live with a friend and crash on a couch or crash in a basement or whatever. There's times like that have happened in my life as well. And if I didn't have those people that held me up when I needed to be held up, then where would I be today? Who knows? Like everybody needs that at some point. So just because those people are at that point in this point of their life, that doesn't mean that they're any different than us. It just means that we need to go support them, and let's go find out how to support them. So the housing issue, major issue. But really, I feel like and again, this is everybody. Like if we don't support each other and lift each other up as a whole, the housing in of itself is just one of the small factors. It's one of the pillars that they need. And part of the understanding is, don't have silly rules about like, sure, at this point you might have heard about the issue with the farmers market, and people are trying to feed them at the farmers market and they got kicked out, and you don't have this permit and you don't have $500,000 insurance. Like, look,
Yeah.
I get there's got to be rules in place to prevent chaos. I understand. I don't want chaos in the city no more than anybody else. I get that. But they're literally just trying to do a good thing and take care of people. Like, maybe we need to look a little bit better at that ordinance, and see how can we write it so much so to prevent chaos, but also to allow the people to use it and to use it for good. So,
Yeah, of course. I like that. All right. You want to roll along with the next question? We'll keep going.
Yeah, two in a row. Look at that. Okay. Tennessee has been a hotspot for COVID-19 since the beginning of the pandemic, and Hamblen County has done relatively well in comparison. Considering the damage already done and the overall effect the pandemic has had on our area, what would you have done differently?
well, I guess in the city, there's not. I don't know if the city had a lot to do with it, because the county really kind of controlled a lot of that. So I don't know if there's anything that I understand. Maybe there was some things that they've done that I didn't recognize or whatever. But I think a lot of times I think it really just boils to me personally. And I know listen, from one end of the spectrum to the other, people have various opinions about what could be done, what should be done. My biggest thing that I feel like we should be doing as any type of leader, whether it's in the city, the county, the state, the whole country, I don't care, is we need to make sure that our people, whoever we are serving, are as informed as possible. That if we give as much information and good information out as quickly as we can, and I know the health department has been working like crazy to, give vaccines and do testing and be a big part of that. But we need to make sure that that happens all the time, because everybody's situation is a bit different. And for me, for example, if I know that something's going out and I have some health issues, and I'm like really like, wow, I mean, this could be a bad thing for me. Like, I need to know that and know it timely so that I can stay home and I can like make that decision myself. Or on the other end of the spectrum, like, you might have somebody that feels like, go back to small businesses. Like, we talked a little bit about that, and honestly, how COVID had a major impact on a lot of small businesses. Like, if we get that type of information, good, solid information out to the public, and keep it up as much as possible, then give them the opportunity to decide what is best for them. I feel like if I'm a small business owner and all this data is coming across and stats, and I'm like, man, that's looking rough, I ain't doing it, then it's up to me that I can decide, look, we're going to close. I'm not doing it right now. Like, or we do something different, instead of, maybe I'm a small restaurant, instead of coming in and dining in, we're going to do to-go orders only, or whatever. I can track and adjust and allow things to take place based upon the information that I have. And if I feel like that, hey, we can keep people safe and we can do things and keep the business open, then I think they should be able to do that if they have that good information. But it all is going to stem back to, what information do I have, and is it good, reliable information, so that we all, because even just three of us together, we all have probably three very different situations, and we may even have three very different stances on how we should or could respond to the pandemic. One of us may say, I'm going to go out and never wear a mask and I'm going to run through the streets. And someone else may say, I'm never leaving my house. I'm locking the doors, the windows, and I'm not even letting the fly in. and someone else may be in the middle of that. Like there's a wide spectrum of what people believe in, and that's understandable. But I feel like as long as we have as good information as possible, that empowers us to make the best decision for us and our families and our businesses and whatever else that we have the responsibility over.
Yeah, that's an interesting response. I mean, I agree. Information is definitely it's getting good information is sort of scarce these days, and even if it's good, it's sometimes it's like hard to know if it's reliable. So yeah, and there's not much the city could do, but it sounds like you've already put forward sort of a good plan for a recovery plan from, COVID and how we're going to get back to normal life. So yeah, that's good.
I say open communication for everything. If we maintain open communication on everything we're doing, everything that's out, and just get that out to the best that we can to everyone, however that looks like, I think that we have a different city at that point.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm talking to people, they don't feel like that communication's there. That's why they don't feel like they're a part of what's happening. That's why a lot of people don't really feel invested in what's happening. That's why a lot of people don't come out and vote. I mean, how many people are going to show up for the polls this time around? I mean, it's not a mayor seat that's running. People are like, it's just a couple little city council things, nothing too big. How many people are going to show up? There's not, we lack that investment. And it's because there's a big divide between these people and these people. And we have to figure out how to bridge that divide. It's easy. Communication. That's how you bridge it. You talk.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So we got through 5 questions. Now we're going to go into a bit more of the social policy, which might be a bit more controversial for this conversation, but we'll go along with it. So
it's okay. Just throw it at me. I don't know how much will apply at a city level because a lot of it might be more, nationally focused,
of course,
possibly, or maybe state.
Yeah.
However, mm-hmm. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on things, and I'm happy to share mine.
All right. So, cannabis laws in the United States severely depart from public opinion. In a 2019 poll, 88% of Tennessee voters and 83% of Knoxville voters supported legalizing marijuana in some form, with 42% of those in Knoxville supporting recreational marijuana legalization. Nashville and Memphis enacted in 2016 to give the choice for police officers to issue a $50 fine for simple possession under half an ounce, but these ordinances were struck down by former Governor Bill Haslam. Though Nashville has partially decriminalized possession under half an ounce, it remains illegal statewide. Would you support possible efforts of decriminalization of cannabis in Morristown and perhaps be a voice of opposition towards our governor who upheld this decision?
Yes. It, to me, makes
Easy.
no sense that we are criminalizing people. And I'll say this, listen, I'll add this to it. I don't smoke pot. I don't use it, that's just me. But my thought is if we're criminalizing people for smoking a plant, I mean, come on, let's fill up the jails because you smoked the plant. Come on. Like, I feel like crimes without victims probably are not crimes. Okay. Let's be real. Who's the victim here? If there's no victim to speak of, there's no victim to go talk to or talk about, then what are we talking about? So absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. All right. You want to go with the next one?
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Last summer, our youth organized a march to protest the murder of George Floyd. It lasted all night and had 0 property damage. These people felt as though they had no voice or say in what their government does to them, as well as their police force. What will you do to make them feel heard, and what policies would you push for to strengthen trust between police and communities of color?
Absolutely vital. Great question. Again, we need that communication. Um, I am adamant that we are all on the same team except for a few people. Like there's a few people that are not good people, and they may be on both sides. There may be a few officers, not speaking city officers, just generally. There may be a few officers that are not good, that are abusing their power. There may be a few people, whether it's people of color or not, few criminals that are not good. The vast majority of people are good people, but the rhetoric out there has been designed to divide us. It is intentional. I really feel like whoever is behind the scenes pulling these puppeteer strings really wants to cause division, because they know united we will forever stand. And nobody will ever go against us if we're united. So again, the way to unite us, we have to have that communication. A big thing I just mentioned earlier, about your voices, all of your voices, even young people's voices. Like, I want to know them. I want to hear them. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to agree with every single thing that everybody says. Of course not. That's impossible. But your voice is valuable to hear. And I love to hear people's stances on things. So being able to reconcile that and to come together and say, hey, listen, I hear you, you've got an issue, or you feel like there's a disconnect or discord between whether it's police department and people of color, whether it's whatever, throw out two different, I don't care who it is. I want to figure out how do we bridge that. I know that I haven't heard of, and you guys may know better than me, because listen, I can tell you've done your research, you've done your homework, you got all the good facts, you guys are on it. But I haven't heard of any particular issues specifically in the city, that has maybe brought, that to attention of any type of discrimination or any. I haven't heard of that. Now, if it's happened and I don't know it, I apologize. But we have to be proactive to make sure it doesn't happen. Going out and marching and sharing our voice about something negative that happened. It's great to have that voice. We have that freedom of speech. We get to share that. That's powerful. However, no matter how powerful it is, it doesn't bring back the injustice that was already done. We have got to make sure that we are on the same page, on the same team, that injustice doesn't happen. And a lot of times it's because of a miscommunication. I mean, not necessarily George Floyd, I'm not speaking of, but just generally speaking, there may be a miscommunication between one member and another, and it escalates when it doesn't have to. So, I think we need to recognize that, at least here, best I can tell, there's not two sides of, well, there's these people and there's, I mean, if there is, but that's like the cliques and, the haves and the have-nots and the, there's those, but not like, oh man, there's this opportunity for discrimination. I don't feel like we're seeing that. I don't know. You guys tell me if I'm missing anything. I haven't seen it, but I do think that it is more important to ensure that it never happens than to try to go back and fix something that you can't bring a life back, or you can't bring discrimination. Like, you can't fix those things. So we're gonna have to fix it before it ever starts before it ever happens. And I think the way we do that is maintaining that relationship, like having some type of maybe program, maybe that the police department or sheriff's department or somebody, would be interested in doing something in the minority community, to show that, listen, we're here just to protect you, and that's it. We are not here to hurt you. We're not here against you. We're here to protect you. And maybe something, maybe vice versa. Maybe someone in a minority group, plans some type of event or something, like they have, I don't know, whatever, like law enforcement support days or whatever they're called, like, that they try to make like a holiday thing out of it. Like, all right, cool. Hey, look, we support you guys. Here's some cupcakes or whatever. We painted you a picture. I don't know, like, so that it's a two-way street, that you guys are mutually respecting and mutually supporting each other.
Yeah. I think that's good. From hearing conversations between certain people and former cops. It's like, even if one cop tries to expose like abuse or any problem with another cop, it's like they hardly have many ways out of that. So I think that like the system is a bit flawed for all of us, you know. So it seems like there's just, in certain places, there's not that kind of conversation allowing to form. So yeah, just being able to stop things, stop bad things in our police station before it goes bad. Just making sure that everybody in this place feels heard. I think that's just the best we can do.
And I think that's probably the biggest issue. I mean, even Nate, in your question, you said something of that effect. I won't be able to quote it verbatim, but you said something about to have our voices heard. And a lot of the frustration from the one side is probably that. You don't hear me. You're not listening to me. I have a concern. I'm trying to get it out. You don't want to hear it. Like, that's part of the issue. So that communication, that relationship really all boils down to that relationship, that we all respect each other. And when you have something to say, look, I don't care what color you are. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You are a person and you have a concern. You deserve to have your voice heard. You know, I see these videos all the time. They don't go as viral as the other videos do, but you know, there's these videos all the time of, you know, officers, usually they're like downtown type of big city environments, playing baseball with the kids, playing basketball with kids, you know, like that is how the community comes together. And I'm not saying cops down here should, you know, just throw all their gear off and just go diving in the pool with all the kids. I get they got a job to do. I understand that. And that's what we pay them for, is that job to do. Understand that. But, you know, that relationship goes a long way. And, you know, that engagement, that positive engagement goes a long way. I've heard a lot about, like, when I go to these city council meetings and some of the homeless population come and get up and speak. Several times I've heard people say, hey, so-and-so officer, he sees me all the time. He's been very nice to me, very respectful to me. I've never had a problem out of such and such officer. And I appreciate that. So all of the officers need to have that mentality about all of the people. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying, generally speaking, nationally, if we have all of whatever side anyone's on, thing is, it's not a side. We're all just people trying to live in the same community together. And if we all just, you know, have that relationship, like, there won't be no sides. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little naive, but I just feel like there shouldn't be so many sides. Like, let's just be together. Let's just, you know, maybe back in hippie days, and let's just love and peace and stuff, you know?
Okay. And like, I know that like a big portion of your platform is transparency and communication. Would you have any problem with like body cams or anything like that?
Absolutely not. I think we need to have the best type of body cams that we can have, because that protects both sides. You know, if someone says he did this to me, no, she did that, like, there's video evidence. So absolutely, body cams. I know we have those, of course, but like, we need to make sure that every officer has one. Dash cams, they have those as well. We need to make sure that we stay on top of those things. Accountability is huge across the board. And my thought is, if everyone does what you're supposed to do, then there's no need for accountability if you do things right.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next question. One of the biggest hurdles for real representation in this country is the two-party system, which is reinforced by first-past-the-post voting. If more people get involved locally, voters will probably have to choose between multiple candidates, and if their favorite isn't the one of the most two popular ones, they might feel like their vote is wasted if their second favorite loses. To allow for better representation in this town, would you support something like ranked choice voting or runoff voting for our local elections, if that isn't already the case?
I love the idea of ranked choice voting. Our election system nationally, for sure. I know it trickles down, but it's majorly flawed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not fair for me to have to pick the lesser of two evils, just because I'm afraid that if I don't vote for this guy that I like a little bit less, because really I don't like anybody, like this guy's gonna that I like a little bit less is gonna win. So absolutely, this ranked choice is a great way for the country to move forward, and we need to get with the game because our system is so 1780.
I completely agree. Yes, I think that'd be great around here. I'm not sure if that's already the case. I haven't found any election like results in the past that have ended
No,
up
I
like
think
that, but I don't think that's
only
how it is.
who is it? I think it's Maine. It might be Maine. One of those really high northeastern states, and somebody in the middle. Maine and Iowa. One of those.
Yeah,
Do are the only two states in the country that use some form of ranked the ranked voting.
yeah.
I believe something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look back. I did some research. I don't recall exactly, but we don't do it here.
Yeah. It's super cool. There's a Chattanooga election that just passed, and their mayoral election. It was a new mayor. Couldn't be. Um, he couldn't do another term, and it went to a runoff. So it seems like they're having a better time with representation. So I think that's super cool.
And I
So
think
yeah.
that's what it's supposed to be. Is
Mm-hmm.
accurate representation. Like that's all I want.
Mm-hmm. All right. You wanna hop on your question?
Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. Our city benefits from a unique proportion of immigrants in Tennessee, both culturally and economically. In fact, Hamblen County has the second highest proportion of immigrants in East Tennessee. In 2018, the largest single workplace raid in the country in a decade was conducting a neighboring bean station at the southeastern province meat facility. So devastating to the local community that a Netflix documentary was produced for it. An estimated 83 workers were detained in the National Guard Center. The next day, over 500 Hispanic students in Hamblen County didn't attend school over fears of uh, detain, being detained and deportation. Uh, Gary Chesney,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, okay, uh, uh, responded saying it involves more focus than things land in our lap. There are many who've hollered that we want illegal immigrants gone. At the same time, we don't think children need to go to bed afraid. I'm not sure if the mayor was capable of hearing the hollering of the families. Not more than 2 months later, the Tennessee legislature passed a law banning sanctuary cities in our state. The situation isn't great, and is if there is anything that you could work towards to make sure that our immigration policy or our immigrant population would be they documented or not feel safe calling 911 in an emergency and ensure that undocumented families are safe to seek citizenship and future and a future in Morristown. Sorry about
No,
that.
you're good. Great question. Great research on that too. Bringing up the good points. The fundamental issue with this is the process to citizenship. That's the fundamental issue. Obviously, we can't fix that here in the city. That's a federal thing. But if we make citizenship more attainable and more easily attainable, then we don't have that problem. It's not. I dare say most people are not like, haha, I'm gonna sneak over the border and I'm going to stay illegally because I feel like it.
Yeah.
They're seeking better opportunities for themselves and their families and their lives. And if they are and have such a passion to do so and want that type of life for themselves, and they're out here working. Like, it's not like they're stealing things, and they raided a place of employment. So um, we we as a nation need to figure out the right path to citizenship so that people can come and be a part of this country, and then maybe actually take part in things like this and feel more like it's their community, because they might want to stay here. They might not want to come for 6 months and then run back. They might want to restart, and maybe they're leaving a terrible situation. So I think it's difficult to answer at the city level, because obviously the city didn't really have anything to do with that raid, or there's nothing that we could do with a federal agency kicking in doors and taking people. That, like, we don't have that authority and that jurisdiction to do anything with that. So the big picture is, nationally, we have got to figure out the right path to citizenship, so that more people will actually try to do that, and that is going to further benefit our country. It's going to further benefit those people, but it's going to benefit our country as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, my cousin is actually an elementary school teacher, and after the raid, there were a lot of Hispanic students that didn't have a way to get home because their parents were detained. Is there any sort of help that we could give to those students or those young people if a raid were to happen again like this?
I mean, I think it's going to have to come back to the community, supporting the community, and I think the best answer is, don't try to detain people that are victimless crimes, again. Yeah. That's the real answer. But again, we can't step on ICE's toes or anything, of course. Mm-hmm. So if something like that happened again, I would hope that the community will come together, churches, nonprofits, families, just whatever, like, people would come together and unite together as a city and as a community and say, look, these are our people and we're going to take care of them. To say, yeah, I understand that this happened, but we don't want the children to go. Who do you think's raising these children? You can't have children in homes taking care of themselves. I worked for DCS too long to know that that's an issue. So we need to make sure that if you say you support the family and you're about families, then you got to support the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that same cousin that I have, their school had like a little, they gave like the children like resources, and they let them stay in the gymnasium for a couple of nights until they could get relocated
like
somewhere else. So
in where they needed
there's
and tried to fill that gap. So
yeah. All right. So if that wraps that up, we've got our last question, and there's a lot to preface with because it's a main one. And yeah, let's just go with it. So, all right. Tennessee House Bill 1182 will make it a requirement for any accommodation to require disclosing that they allow trans individuals in their bathrooms, which would only increase aversion towards trans people in the same way that segregating bathrooms did during Jim Crow. This, along with the sweeping legislation that both of our representatives voted for, banning trans youth from competing in sports, gives a strong impression that Tennessee is not a safe place for trans or LGBT folks. In fact, they're also proposing that parents can opt their children out of classes that touch upon any study of LGBT topics or issues. History teachers will be legally barred from discussing the full impact of Reagan's inaction towards the AIDS crisis, or the fact that both of Tennessee's first LGBT representatives, Republican and Democrat, were only elected 8 months ago, both of which oppose this bill. And no matter what I do, I live in the only state in this country where I can't change the sex on my birth certificate, regardless of surgery, despite overwhelming data showing that recognizing trans people as their gender identity drastically reduces depression and suicide rates. So I won't stop fighting until I am granted this right. There's been a recent onslaught of state legislatures denying trans people services, especially trans youth in Arkansas. And I want a future where I and thousands of others can live happily with whoever I want and enjoy Morristown's gorgeous scenery. I don't think many people understand trans issues because they haven't met a trans person. And I hope to make Morristown, Tennessee a place where we're not only accepted, but recognized as people with rights. Will you do all you can to fight against state laws blatantly revoking the rights of trans people, to make Morristown a safe space for all, and perhaps even become the first place in Tennessee to outlaw conversion therapy and protect the queer students of East and West High School from discrimination, to allow their administrations to personally accommodate individual athletes and students? And I know that was a lot of word salad there and a lot for you to answer for, but yeah, I just want your support on my side with this issue. So yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So there is a lot, and there's different elements, of course, to that question.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most overarching one that really what's the word, just speaks to me is that we've kind of talked about earlier at some respect, is I don't care what color you are, who you are, what you feel, what you think. I don't care. You're a person. You deserve to be treated a certain way. You deserve to be respected. You deserve your voice to be heard. Like, we cannot look down on people just because people are different than us. Like, if you are different than me, that doesn't make me better, doesn't make you better. It just makes us different. So just because we're different doesn't mean that we treat anyone different, like differently than you treat somebody else. And it's really a shame that we are having such discussion nationally about, well, how are we supposed to treat these people? You treat them like people. It's easy. It's a really easy thing. It's incredibly easy. You've been doing it your whole life. Just because people have a different stance, and I get it. The world's changing. People are changing. Things are different. I get it. You know, there wasn't hardly any, if any, like, trans kids when I was growing up, probably not that I know of, or, you know, and then you look at the current council. Let's see how many people on the council had trans people when they were growing up. Probably zero, because, you know, those people didn't feel safe to come out with different things as they do today. You know, there's more opportunity for people to feel safe about who they are and who they want to be, and they come out with that. So 100%, we have got to stop treating anyone, people of color, people of different countries, people of homeless status. I don't care who you are. We've got to treat everybody the same. The bills in regard, obviously, that's a state level, you know, sports and things like that. So I know that there's nothing we can do about that type of stuff in the city since it's a state bill. I would be interested in knowing, here's my, if I can, it may not make sense, but I would be interested in some type of compromise, if you will, with that, and seeing if there was enough support, and there may not be at this point. Maybe that's a discussion for 10, 20, 50 years, who knows? But if there's enough support for, like, if we're saying, hey, here's a men's team, here's a women's team, can there be a trans team potentially? Now, I don't know that there's enough necessarily in given areas to fulfill, like, to have a whole team of that nature. Like, I don't know that. I do understand, obviously, both sides. I understand why, if you're like, hey, what's the word? Hold on. It just left me. I'm sorry. It's been a long day, guys.
Yeah.
If I identify, that's the word. If I identify, it's an easy word. Don't laugh at me. Come on, Nate. He's like, dude,
sorry.
Dude, come on, bro.
Yeah.
So, Like if I'm like, hey, I identify as a woman, I want to be fully involved in my gender. Like I understand that process. I also understand the thought process behind people wanting to protect, like for example, and I'm not saying this would necessarily happen, but it could. Someone like me, who's somewhat, I used to be more athletic, right? And I decide, I'm gonna say I feel like a girl today, so I can go dominate all these girls in the basketball league. I'm not saying that type of malice intention is out there and that people are like, I'm going to pretend to be trans so I can be great at my sport. I'm not saying it's out there. What I'm saying is there are probably somebody would, I feel like, could expose that. You know what I mean? And then you have the girls that are probably very great at their sport. And now you got LeBron James coming to dunk on them. Like, I just feel like that part's not fair. So we've got to find a balance where people feel like they're supported, feel like they're heard, feel like they're included in whatever sport, team, whatever that looks like, but also make sure we protect the other sports as well. So, and protect that type of situation from happening. Now, chances are, if I say I identify as a girl, I'm probably more, I would think, anyway, I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably not gonna have a whole beard, and I'm probably not gonna try to like work out to be stronger. I'm gonna try to be more feminine, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
Like that would just be who I would be. So chances of me saying I identify as a female but dunking on people might be, it might not happen as much. But I do think that there's opportunity for that to be exposed, and I think we have to be careful not, and that's my biggest fear, is like just the female sports, is to make sure that we don't lose that, because then those potential, like those trans that identify as female won't have a sport to go to. If for example you got LeBron James types of people identifying as female just dominating a female basketball team, and then the girls grow up and be like, I'm not going to play basketball. LeBron James over there is going to dunk on me. Like, he destroys me. He scores 175 every game, Mom. I'm not playing. And then you have the fact that no, like, girl teams are being formed. And then where does that person go to play? So we've got to be careful in how we kind of trek through that, I think. And I'm not sure what the answer is. I don't have those answers. That's why I was thinking if there was some kind of compromise that may be helpful, and we may not be there for that compromise, not yet. I don't know the numbers like that. But we just have to be careful to meet both people where they're at, both sides where they're at,
Yeah, I mean, I understand the general aversion to that topic, and trying to find a line there. The issue with like a trans sports thing, I don't want to get too big into a debate, but like
it's okay. You know better
yeah.
than I do. There was just a thought off the top of my head. So
yeah,
I'm sure there's many issues with it, and people are going to message me like, "You're so stupid. You don't get it." Like,
no.
I totally get it. I don't. I need to understand more, and I need to know how to support everybody the best I can. So
yeah, I mean,
I agree with that.
Yeah, it just takes people to listen for stuff like this to happen. So I'm glad that you're here for that. Yeah, with the thing is that basically putting a blanket ban on all trans people entering into their own sports would mean so many different things. So like the best situation would be where every school individually accommodates every student, even though that is a bit resourceful. But it takes typically in high school and beyond, even in college, it takes 2 years for a trans woman to be on hormones before they're allowed to even participate in women's sports. And so, like, I was in Taekwondo. I did martial arts. And so the stuff that I did, other than physically, like, touching someone, it was it was completely like judged by 3 different people, so you'd only have the merits to judge on. So it's like different sports have different things. So
Sure.
yeah, and also with banning trans people from sports, the trans men will be taking testosterone, and if they were forced to compete in women's sports, they already have an advantage there. And so they also outcompete trans women after those 2 years of hormones or whatever. And so, yeah, there's trans bodybuilders that still compete in their division of sex assigned at birth, as they're sort of waiting for the whole hormones thing to take
Right.
effect. So basically, yeah, just any support
I think it's
to
a
do
tough
things around
issue. I
here.
think you're right.
Yeah, getting support around here just for
Yeah.
that would be good, to be able to push all that change up, because it's sort of a grassroots thing, you know. So
Right. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I think that's what also makes it more difficult because of its grassroots nature. It's brand new. A lot of this is just new stuff that's coming out over, few years, kind of, for the most part. I know it's been before that, but heavier in a few years. And I think as time goes on and we start learning more about how to support everyone, like, I think there'll be more maybe more advantageous discussions happening instead of just being shut down. I feel like right now a lot of people are either like, I'm absolutely for it or absolutely not. And I think we got to figure out a way for these two sides, again, communication, to talk about, let's uncover the barriers, let's uncover the issues, and let's see what we can do to get everybody to feel like that they're a part of their society. And society is more than just the radius around my house. Society is the things that I'm involved in and where I feel like home is, and whether that's sports or church or school or whatever. It could be 100 different things. People have to feel at home in their society, and that's a factor, and it's going to continue to be a factor until we can figure out how to best support everybody so that everybody feels like their society is home. It's a tough question. I appreciate you guys just bringing that and bringing the heat, like, and not, not stepping off the gas on that. Like, you guys came up with some really intelligent, hard questions, and you weren't afraid to ask, and you put your thoughts out there, and I really appreciate that. Appreciate you guys coming to me and asking to do this. Like,
yeah, absolutely,
every bit of this. Like, it was a really cool opportunity. I'm really really excited for you guys to be getting involved and getting involved with other people and in the community, and just keep doing this. Like, if I can say anything, keep doing this. Not just for city council elections, I don't care. Everything that you guys can get involved in, do it, because you're going to be a change. You're going to be the voice for change, whether that's on question number 1 or question 10. You're going to be the voice for change all over, and I love that, and that's what we need to be doing. Like, I don't want to be some person to say I'm in a leadership position and I am. That means nothing. Leadership is about bringing people with you and growing people so that they can be in leadership positions. It's about training people to take my job. Like, I want to see you guys doing stuff like this, and that's it. Like, that's what it's about. So we're supporting each other to reach our potential. So
yeah, I absolutely
this was
agree.
great. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it was great having you. Thanks for coming on and sharing this opportunity. I'm gonna go through the dates. Our dear guest Rob Burke is running for election on May the 4th. Early voting begins April 14th. The last day to request an absentee ballot is April 27th, and early voting ends at April 29th. Unfortunately, if you live in the county area, you can't vote. And next week on Tuesday at 7 p.m. at Walter State, there will be a city council candidate forum where you'll be able to come and talk to all of our people in city council and our local legislature and be able to have a discussion with them and get involved in our community. So once again, Rob Burke, thanks for having us. Thanks for for coming on.
100%.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate it, and this means a lot. So thank you. Keep up the great work. Rock stars right here. I see it.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Good talking
Take
to
care,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See ya.